Hello, YouTube and other places where I am streaming. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and today I'm going to share with you some of my most recent discoveries in my interdimensional meditations. One is that the old gods still exist, and there are gods that exist that the gods themselves worship. Reminiscent of the Titans, except they're not evil, entities that the Titans of Greek mythology are portrayed to be. The giants in Norse mythology. These beings still exist, and they are conscious. And they can communicate with us. At the very least, they're communicating with me. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. This is the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel where I give you practical tools. The point of this channel is to take the tools that I give you and to use them, not to just sit here and listen to me talk. Enormous waste of your time and energy if all you're doing is listening to me talk. I'm going to get into who these beings are, at least what little I know of them after having communicated with them. And it's very powerful stuff. Before I do that though, please know what this channel is here to do. Go up here to michaelwilliamdenny.com. You see my name, Michael William Denny. You see that? Just type that in and put .com and you'll see all of my books. They are audiobooks as well as print books as well as digital books. Go get them. Interdimensional Revolution is probably the most important one you should be reading. Up here, Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. This will give you the physical power to be able to withstand interacting with these beings. I'm not the only one saying this. There's some other people out there that have been doing similar kinds of stuff for years that I've run into, and they say the same thing that I do, is that when these beings communicate to you, their communication itself has power, and you have to think of it as a big chunk of space. And when this information hits your nervous system, if you're not prepared, your nervous system will shut down. It's very challenging. So if you want to be able to communicate with beings like this, you're going to have to get your nervous system, your energy meridians, and your meditative mind has to expand to be able to absorb that kind of energy. Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong at thunderwizard.com. Listen, if you're 10 years old and you live with your parents and you can't, find the change in your pocket to deal with it, I've got free stuff here on the channel. Go to the playlists of Qigong and energy work. If you want to do this, you're going to have to get your body up to speed. Courses.thunderwizard.com, all of my services, astrology, RUNE readings, all of my teachings, video courses, etc., etc. And of course, the interdimensional meditation course, which you can find also here at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. All right, are you ready to handle this? It's really intense stuff. So I have to say, let me just put it this way. If I were to consciously fake this, if I were to make stuff up, I wouldn't have done it the way that it has come about. When I go into interdimensional meditation, my guide is Thoth. The Egyptian god, the equivalent to Hermes, sort of the equivalent to Odin. He's the mercurial god who is the messenger of the gods. And same with these guys, I didn't know who they were until I had been interacting with them with Thoth. All I knew is that there was a being who was with me all the time, who was able to, which I gave the responsibility I said, I need you to be my secretary, because all of these beings were coming to me, and I just didn't know what to do with it all. So I asked, does anybody out there want to be my secretary? And this being showed up. And it wasn't until months, almost a year later, that I found out that it was the god Thoth. So I wouldn't have picked that, because I didn't even recognize the name, because I'm not into that. It's not my thing. And these beings, this one right here is the one that's got, well, I mean, the other one has power too, but this guy's power is unbelievable. And I chose this picture because that's how he appears to me. He's just this very powerful, dark black void that is he calls himself the Father. And he has unbelievable power. Unbelievable power. Just a little bit of interaction with him, and my whole third eye in the front of my head feels like it's out to here. And I'm just kind of useless because the energy is so powerful. And then his counterpart, who calls herself the Mother, she is a being of pure light. Absolute pure light. And what's interesting is how this is opposite what you come to learn when you learn spirituality, which is, when you look at here, the yin and the yang is light. It's the right side of the body. It is masculine. It is light. And of course, there's that black dot in the center. Now I know what that black dot in the center of the masculine energy is. And the same thing in the feminine. The feminine is dark. The feminine is earthly. But at the source of the feminine is this light. Now I know what that light energy is. And it is these beings here. She is the source of all feminine energy. He is the source of all masculine energy. And you can see their names there. That was the most confusing to me. And yesterday I was interacting with the being that first presented himself as the Father. And he is the one that said, we are the gods that the gods worship. And then he referred to me as my father, and she refers to me as my mother. And so finally, as I'm communicating with the masculine, dark, very powerful being, and I get up the courage to ask him his name. And he gives me two names. First one he says is Tarhunt. And it sounded, I didn't know what that was. It sounded like some Native American name or sound. And of course, my first thought was, I'm making this up. And then, immediately after that, he gives me an alternative name, Tarhunt. And then I seem to recognize that. And of course, I say the same thing to myself. And I say, I'm making this up. And then he says, look it up. So after I came down from that experience and I brought myself back into my body as best I could, I looked it up, expecting to see something that either didn't exist or didn't make sense, or that it was clear that I had made it up. And sure enough, there is a god who is even older than the Vedic gods, perhaps the oldest god, Indo-European god that we have on record, from the, I forget who it was, the precursors of the Hittites, the people who came before the Hittites. And I believe they date from before the Vedic culture. And his name is Tarhunt. And Tarhuns is his name. It's also, of course, I don't know this, but I find out later that there's some video game, I don't know what the video game is, and they've got this weird looking guy that has taken the name, but trust me, it's not this god. That's a video game. And so it turns out that Tarhunt is a storm god who was viewed as the storm god, the lightning god, and he is the god that gives authority to everything. He brings order to the multiverse, and anything or anybody that has true authority, it comes from him. So if you have this guy on your side, you're a very powerful individual. And then, of course, his counterpart, his wife. I didn't ask her name because it just didn't come about, but I found out that Tarhunt and the later version, Tarhunt's, has a wife, and she's just simply called the sun goddess, and the name that she's given, I think it's Ariniti, is the name of a city, Arina. So she was the goddess of this city, and they just named her after the city, but she's actually, her name is Uru. And that is very interesting, so I want to tell you what I've found about Uru. So if I just look at Uru itself, the name Uru, if I look at it in terms of the runes, the 3 runes of her name would be power, the rays of the sun, and then power. So she's the power behind the power of the sun. And again, we've got the sun is feminine. So Sunna is the Norse goddess of the sun. Sunna. Balder is associated with the sun, but he's not really the sun god. But Sunna is the sun goddess. If we look at the runes of Sunna, we have Sawul, which is the soul. We have Uruz, which is power. We have Nauthiz, which is the power of the void that is about to transform into something, very useful. Again, the Nauthiz rune is 2 sticks because somebody who was desperately trying to figure out how to start fire. Somebody was trying to figure out how to start fire, and he came up with this crazy idea of, I've tried everything. I've tried banging rocks together. I've tried everything. I'm just going to rub these 2 sticks together. In fact, I'll put it here and then, somebody had to really put a lot of effort into thinking outside of the box, and that need, that feeling of constriction created this invention. No other, we don't have any other, monkeys don't do it. There are no other animals that have thought so hard to figure out how to rub 2 sticks together and create fire. So Nauthiz is that constriction that makes it so challenging that you have to break out of it. So it's the void that brings innovation, it brings invention, it brings creation. So we have Sawul, Uruz, soul, power, Nauthiz. So we have this double constriction which is going to explode into energy. And then the last letter, A, Ansuj, means divine communication. This is Sunna. And Surya is one of the names for the male aspect of the sun, but it has to do with the rays of the sun. So with the sun is a feminine deity. In fact, what creates, at least this isn't entirely true, but from the perspective of Western science, there's some truth to this. They got part of it right, which is the rays of the sun that come and hit the earth, that have all the warmth and the power that we benefit from. That's a result of nuclear fusion because the gravity is so intense. In the center of the sun, the gravity is so intense it literally crushes the hydrogen molecules, and it creates a nuclear explosion, nuclear fusion. And that nuclear radiation bounces back and forth inside the sun for a very long time, and then when it finally escapes, it shoots out of the sun as a ray of light, and that ray of light is masculine. So that's why Surya is a masculine god, because it is the rays of the sun. But the actual mantra for the sun, the Gayatri mantra, is Savitri, and she is a goddess. The sun herself in the Vedic tradition is called Aditi, which is the mother goddess. We forget this. So here we have the name that I've looked up, Uru, which was the name for the Hittite or one of those very old Indo-European sun goddesses, and they barely use that name because, like me, they just call her the mother. But here's what I found. I went looking for it, and I found Uru in Sanskrit, and it is part of Shaktiism, which is worship of the feminine. People who worship Shiva they worship Shakti. And in that understanding, based on my my research, Uru refers to, and I'm not making this up, refers to, quote, waves of rays. According to the Manthana Bhairava Tantra. A vast, that's something else. Uru, the active in the utterance. So she is active in the utterance of mantra. When you chant a mantra, she, the Uru, is actually, according to this, she is in the center. She is what is creating the waves, the vibrations of that mantra, which is everything. Because you know the rishis, the seers who bring us the mantras, they don't make these mantras up. They go into deep meditation and they hear these different vibrations. And they come back and they chant the vibrations, and somebody writes them down, and then they have this mantra. That's how the Vedas were created. So that vibration of that sound is Uru. It is the sun goddess. It is waves of rays of light. So it says, she pervades all things with the mass of her red and beautiful rays. She is, get this, the universal energy of Shiva. She is the root goddess who pervades all things. She awakens the command that has been destroyed and removes the impurities of the order of things. She alone, I'm just reading again from what I found based on her. She awakens the command that has been destroyed. Oh, I already read that. She alone is capable of piercing the bridge. She is the garland of 32 syllables, the awakened Kaulika command, the supreme energy well deployed. Pure, she is the light of the void. What do you see here? You see, the masculine is the void, and she is the light. She is the light of the void. I am not making this up. She pulses radiantly with waves of rays, R-A-Y-S. She alone conjoins the people who are bound to the path of the enlightened. So if you remember, what was the first thing that was told to me when I asked the light beings, when they showed me that dream, that there was going to be some event in the sky that everybody would see, that they would think was the second coming of Christ, and then they would find out very quickly, they would become awakened to the limitations of religion, and they would go beyond to see what the truth is. I didn't know what that was, and I said, what is that event going to be? I mean, is it going to be spaceships coming in? What's going to happen? And they said, no. It's going to be a series of waves of love that are going to hit the earth and penetrate all things on earth, and everything will shift up to the next level. So you tell me that all of this comes together, and here am I. I've been talking with these two beings who call themselves the mother and the father. One is just this feminine being of pure light who, you know, I've given her a face. She doesn't provide a face. She's just this light that overwhelms me. And she is, I can't even describe how incredibly loving and supportive and empowering she is. And she's very gentle. So the energy that comes from her is, it doesn't overwhelm me and fry my circuits. It's very gentle. Obviously she's, holding back, and she treats me like treats me with, the same kind of feeling that you would expect from a completely loving mother. And then behind her, always sort of, and it's always on the right side. She comes in from the left, and he's sort of behind her on the right. There's this dark power. And he came forward a couple of times and he said, I'm the father. And I didn't feel anything coming from him. And when that happens, I start to think I'm making it up. So I said, with a little bit of embarrassment, I said, can you please, so that I know that I'm not making this up, can I feel your power? Can I feel your energy? And I felt this energy start to go. I mean, it wasn't like it was obvious, just absolute control over the amount of energy that was coming to me, but it was so heavy and so deep and so intense. And I said, okay, yep, I feel that. I'm not making this up. And then, of course, there's this, like, afterwards, I'm like, what the hell just happened? So it's usually the mother. She comes and she does most of the talking, and he sits in the background. I can see him and feel him, and again, I don't see anybody there. This last time, he did sort of show up like this picture where I could see the outline of, some being in the blackness, with the bright shining eyes and the energy behind all of it. And he showed up and he had something he wanted to tell me, which I won't waste your time with that, but had some stuff he wanted to tell me personally. And, then he started giving me more and more of that power that he has, started letting more and more of that out. Without getting into any specifics, the feeling I get is that something huge is coming, something huge. I mean, I can talk about this. We're talking about, the earth splitting into two. We're talking about, all of these things. And of course, those are huge. But it's one thing to say that, to have an intellectual idea of that. And it's another thing to feel it. And I just can't escape the feeling that something huge is coming and is in the process of being revealed. So again, and I couldn't have made this up, because when I first started interacting with these beings, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. He's all darkness, he's this void, and she's this light, and that's the opposite of what I was taught, that the masculine is light energy and the feminine is dark energy. And then I'm reminded of what they said, which is that they said, we are the gods that the gods worship. We are the source of the gods. We are the source of everything. And then, of course, you look at the yin yang and you see just that. The source of the masculine is this incredibly deep, dark void full of power. And the source of the feminine is this bright white light that is the source of all nourishment and all healing. Very intense stuff. So this is completely, this whole process from a year ago, this whole process, everything that's happened has completely, totally taken everything that I assumed about the universe and gods and consciousness and either flipped it completely on its head or introduced things I couldn't have possibly imagined, destroyed many of my assumptions about how this all works. In the past, I would have talked about yin and yang as a force. I wouldn't have talked about it as a conscious being. I would have said, no, these are just the forces that we deal with. The masculine force, the feminine force. But no, there are actual entities who can, they're not so, and the thing that's most interesting is that they can communicate with me at my level. That blows me away about all of them, that they can communicate with me on my level. The other thing that's interesting is that there have been light beings who have showed up who are from, very powerful beings who are in charge of a lot of stuff. They're part of these councils. There's just a bunch of councils out there, which I thought I was making that stuff up too, but these groups of beings would show up and they'd say things like, we're the Council of 5, we're the Council of 9, we're the Council of 3, and I don't know what any of that means. What are these, but apparently each one of these councils is, has administration responsibility over certain functionings within, various dimensions within our universe. And when those beings showed up, there was one being that showed up after I did something that they liked. I did a live interdimensional meditation on the channel, and everybody loved that. They went crazy for that. And it wasn't that big of a deal. I just did it, because I'm sharing with you guys. Yeah, that's my job, just to share with you what I find out. And this channel has such a small following. It's not like the entire world. It was just however many people were on the, what was it, 20, 30 people maybe if I was lucky. And took them through that meditation. And as soon as I finished, there was just this huge cacophony of thank yous coming. Like the whole universe exploded with all of these thank yous. And whatever that meant, then somebody came to me and said, you're going to get an upgrade because of that. And so sure enough, this extremely powerful being showed up and gave me an upgrade. And there was some stuff that was said to me which I'm not going to share, and it was just a few words, like a sentence long. And but that sentence had so much power in it that it broke me. It almost put me in the hospital with physical pain, and my body couldn't handle the the higher dimensionality. I could write the sentence that came into my head. It wasn't that I couldn't handle the sentence, it was the energy behind it. And then later, some beings came and said, "Oh, sorry, we didn't realize that it was going to snap you in half like that." And I'm saying that because these beings have far more power than any of those, very powerful beings on those councils. And they have complete control over how much energy they can give to me. And they're able to communicate with me on my level. Those other beings I'm talking about they're not able. They're not able to communicate with me at my third dimensional level, which is why they almost never show up. I always get, other beings that show up because, their energy won't fry my circuits. But what's amazing to me is how powerful these beings are and how they are able to communicate and increase the level of power. And whenever I'm done talking with them, and I go out in public, I'm really not here. I'm just not really in my body. Like I said, my third eye, it feels like it's out to here. It's all this energy from my pineal gland is just. So the old gods are still here. The old gods are still here. The titans, the giants, whatever words you want to use for them. And it makes me think about the mythology, in whether it's the Greek mythology or the Vedic mythology or even the Norse mythology, the gods supposedly overcome and kill the titans in order to gain their power. And so even though this guy is the source of all lightning. Let's see, do I have that up here? Yeah, this guy is the source of all lightning. He let Indra, or Thor, if you want to use Thor, or Zeus, he let those children of his, whom he was giving the right to hold the lightning bolt, he let them believe that they had killed him. Maybe it's that, maybe it's that human beings back then, we're talking back in the Bronze Age, maybe human beings, because they were starting to come into their own, maybe they needed to feel like they were overcoming, defeating the titans. Maybe human beings, because they have this natural fear of interdimensional power, which is behind every single one of you who want to believe in reptilians. Every single one of you who wants to believe that there are false beings of light out there trying to trick you. This is coming from your inability to comprehend higher dimensional energy. This is coming from your inability to survive the intensity of being completely, unconditionally seen and loved. Because one of the things that happens, like when I'm done interacting with, especially Tarhunt, after I'm done interacting with him, if you were to look at me, you would think that I didn't have any feelings. You would think I was just like a robot. Because there's just this emptiness. But what's happened is that my humanity, the need to have feelings, human 3D feelings, gets destroyed. And so as human beings, I think we're coming into their own. They needed to feel alive. They needed to feel connected to the third dimension. They needed excuse me, they needed to feel the power of that. So they created these myths of the Titans being these, like Kronos, eating his children. That is our fear of disappearing, because that is a real thing. If you spend time in the presence of these beings, your third dimensional reality will start to disappear. That was the biggest fear that I had when I first started interacting with higher dimensional beings, is I was afraid that I was going to disappear. And it turns out it's true. And every time I interact with, not so much the mother of the gods, she's got a whole different focus there. So I feel just empowered and loved and nourished by her. But him, don't get me wrong, he doesn't have any he is very positive and complimentary towards me as well. But he's the void. He's there's nothing physical. There's nothing. He's just the power behind everything. And so what ends up happening is, as you get closer and closer to that, the part of you that is manifested in what you perceive to be physical reality starts coming apart. And so your idea of yourself starts coming apart. And I don't mind that when that happens. In fact, I enjoy it. I look forward to it. But then afterwards, you haven't seen me for a couple of days. You want to know why? Because of that. Because this guy showed up. And it just makes me not care about anything. I feel like, the only thing that matters is spirit. It's the only thing that matters. And everything else is just nonsense. So I just don't care about it. I walk around on the beach, or I walk around in the woods with, just kind of, gazing, staring at nothing, staring through everything. So I can only imagine that these gods have returned because we are about to create another universe for ourselves. And these are the two forces of creation. Creators of everything. All right, so enough about that. We'll leave that for now. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. And of course, again, the whole point of this, if you're new to the channel, if you want to have this kind of experience, you're going to have to get your energy body up to speed. If you've been doing energy work your whole life, good for you. But you're going to have to clean your body. So stop doing alcohol, stop doing THC, stop doing caffeine, stop doing nicotine, stop eating out at McDonald's and Dairy Queen. Listen, I'm not perfect when it comes to food, so I'm not here to do that, but I know what my body wants and what it doesn't want. So I don't eat stuff that my body doesn't want. So you're gonna have to clean up your diet if your diet isn't all that great. You're gonna have to start cleaning up your thinking. If you are actively involved in activities that are destructive to yourself and destructive to other people, I'm here to tell you there's no more time. You have to stop. All of your actions must be focused on what is constructive to you and to all other conscious beings. If you want to learn what that is, how to do that, I have a book and videos and a playlist. It's called the Shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life. You can get that book on Amazon, Kindle, or Audible. You can go to michaelwilliamdenny.com and you can find it. You can watch videos about it. You can also go to career.thunderwizard.com, and if you take that course, actually I forgot to put the .thunder, but see, I'm loopy, I'm not functioning very well. career.thunderwizard.com. Now the reason why I put career doesn't have 3 E's, it only has 2. The reason why I called it career.thunderwizard.com is because people wanted to know what their career was. What is their perfect career? So you follow the same recipe. Now, this idea of career is going to go away. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I hope before I end up leaving this physical body. Hopefully it will be in the higher dimensional earth and all of that. Hopefully that'll happen before I'm done with this place. So career isn't really about money. It's about fulfilling your soul. When you're living for your soul, the universe gives you everything that you need. That's just the truth of it. And so you have to be able to find out the difference between what your soul wants and what you think you're supposed to have, or what your soul wants and what the world wants from you. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. But that is really the only course left for us. Because when these guys start to show up, you know something's up. Because this guy has been out of circulation for thousands of years. He's just this part of an old, probably one of the first religions that came about on the planet, and then he faded into the background. And he let his children, the other gods, he let them take the forefront. And he's been sitting there this whole time waiting until now to show up again, because something new is coming. And in any case, you got to do what you need to do to get your body prepared for this. And like I said, food, get rid of the chemicals, but your thoughts, the thoughts that you choose to think, your reactions, you got to work on your psychological issues. If you know that you're a candidate for any of the 12-step groups, I recommend you work the 12 steps with a sponsor. It's the fastest way to clean out all the garbage inside of your ego attachments. And do the work to get yourself prepared to die to, who you thought you were. I mean, that's the last thing he said to me. No, I'll keep that to myself. I won't share that with you. Bottom line, though, is that when you interact with these beings, whether they're light beings or whether it's these guys, one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to find out who you really are. And it's not going to be anything that you expected. And once you accept that understanding of who you really are, the limited person who you are now will disintegrate. So you have to be prepared to die to who you think you are, to find out who you really are. All right, now I'll open it up for questions. If you have a question, write the word question in all caps. Just the word question, not the whole thing, and then write your question. If you have a feeling, please write the word feeling in all caps and share your feelings. There's only 2 things I really want here. Okay, so only 85. Welcome to the channel. This must be your first time. You didn't hear me say what I just said, so next time you ask a question, do me a favor, write the word question in all caps so that I see it. The whole point is I see your question. I skipped past everything that's not a question most of the time. You say, how do you petition the gods for help? How do you petition anybody for help? You go and ask them. It's not that big of a deal. You know, there's some wisdom to your question, because you know, I have to share with you that, you know, you're right. At one point in time, in order to get the gods to give you attention, you'd have to go through a lot of ritual. There are certain mantras in the Vedic tradition that you have to chant a certain mantra, you know, 124,000 times or whatever it is, or chant it, you know. There's all these rules to, after you've, you know, the mantra has built up to a certain level, then what happens is it creates a portal between you and the deity, and then the deity will say, what do you want? And you can get, you know, your requests taken care of. So rituals are about creating a portal to higher dimensions so that you can interact with them. Those days are going bye-bye. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with doing rituals. I mean, you can still, any ritual you do to create a portal, go for it. And everybody's different, so I can't say, you know, I know what's happening with me. It may not be happening that way with you. But the light beings especially, what they're here to do is they're here to break down that barrier. And so this is why it's extremely important that everybody listening to me go research CE5 protocols, watch the movie Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which you can watch for free on YouTube. Everybody needs to be aware of that, because there are higher dimensional beings, both physical and non-physical, who are gathered around Earth. Everybody's here, gathered around Earth right now. And for the first time in human history, everybody, literally every single person who wants to, can access higher dimensions. And these beings, if you ask for their help, they will break through the dimensional barrier. You have to reach back. Otherwise, you may not notice anything. They might be literally standing right next to you, and you won't hear them or see them or feel them if you're really in your 3D mindset. So you have to seek to reach out towards them. But for the first time in human history, the history of planet Earth, human history, for the first time, everybody can have access without having to do, you know, 125,000 repetitions, or, you know, without doing something for 5 or 10 years. Everybody can do that. So I recommend that you do that. And I have, you know, my own version of that. I'm not really interested in seeing spaceships flying. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see, you know, ET craft flying around, but I'm far more interested in interacting with them energetically and meditation. So that's what I do. I just go straight into meditation and I connect with them. So you can have that. So how do you petition the gods for help? Yeah, you just petition them. But you have to believe that you have value. You know, the reason why this stuff doesn't work for most people, for those that it doesn't work for the people, I should say, for the people that they believe it doesn't work for, is simply because they block it out. It's the only reason. I know from personal experience, the first 2 times I did it, I couldn't see what was right in front of me. And if I did see something, I would gaslight myself out of it. I saw lights doing things that were impossible, and I talked myself into it was something else. I've got audio of a higher dimensional being responding to me, and I've got video of an orb flying over me, and I didn't see or hear that as it was happening because I was just too blocked out. And it's because, I couldn't allow myself to believe it. I couldn't allow myself to be part of it. And so that's what's happening. If you're trying this stuff and you think nothing's happening, I guarantee you something's happening. You just either aren't experiencing it, or if you do experience it, you talk yourself out of it. But if you keep going with it, the energy will, it will shift you. It will change you. Agent of the Universe, honest feeling. I feel insecure when you talk about these beings and I don't know why. I'm kind of explaining why. Because you can sense that what I'm talking about is a real thing. And, your attachment to the third dimension, your attachment, not just yours, but everybody, our attachment to feeling like we're in control, our fear is about control. If you have fear, it's about wanting to control. We in the third dimension feel that if we can control things, we feel safe. It couldn't be further from the truth, but that's the nature of the third dimension. So you can tell by me talking about it, you can feel their energy, at least on an unconscious level, and you can feel it destroying your third dimensionality. That's why you're afraid. And that's only human. It's only normal. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I'm grateful to be alive, grateful for you, grateful for everything that I'm blessed with. Trying to adopt a new attitude about life. Thank you for sharing this with us. You're welcome. Is that it? We all done? No more questions? Okay, so the only thing left to do now is to do what you need to do to empower yourself. So if you're new to the channel, what I recommend is that you have a daily energetic spiritual practice. This is the reason why for thousands of years there has been yoga, there has been Kriya Yoga, there has been mantra meditation, there has been Qigong, there has been Tai Chi, there has been rituals, and this has been going on for thousands of years. And now, for the first time, all of these are coming together. I am the only person that I know of, as far as I know in the history of the human race, who has brought together and synthesized Kundalini with Chi, with the lightning energy of the heart. I'm the only person I know of in the world that's done that. And I'm not doing that to say how great I am. I'm doing that to let you know that's because this is the time we live in. Integrating all of these technologies that have been given to human beings by light beings over the millennia to prepare us for this moment right now. The shift has already started. It started, officially started December 2nd of 2022. And we're continuously getting hit with more and more of these solar storms that bring higher, it brings the Uru. We should just call it Uru. You know, what was it that said? They said Uru, the name of the goddess? The waves of rays, who is the light of the void, meaning the light of Tarhunt, the light of the masculine. She is the light of the void, and she pulses radiantly with waves of rays. That's what they said. I said, what is this going to be? And they said, it's going to be a series of solar waves of love. Uru. So now we know whenever we get hit with one of these solar storms that we're now in this solar maximum, and the Earth is allowing it in because she is minimizing her electromagnetic field so that this solar radiation can hit the Earth. Every time we get hit with that, this is actually Uru. It is the love of the mother. And because it's so pure, because it's coming directly from the creation goddess, the one goddess who created everything, because it's coming directly from that, her love is so pure that human beings can't tolerate being loved to that degree. That's all it is. The fear that you feel, the anxiety you feel, if you have these days where all of a sudden you have all these negative feelings, you're angry, you're cranky, you're sad, you're depressed, it's because you're fighting unconditional love. And it feels like it's killing you. But if you get hit with feelings of anxiety and your heart starts to beat, you can feel an electromagnetic shift, like you feel like it's too much. Stop, breathe, and just relax into it. Relax your navel center. Breathe deeply and let yourself have that orgasmic death. That's why orgasms are called the little death. Remember the first one you had? You thought something was wrong. You thought something broke. You were afraid of it. And all of a sudden, bam, this huge, intense orgasmic feeling hit you. Well, that's what's happening now. We're about to have an orgasmic soul explosion experience. Your nervous system is going to go haywire. Everything's going to really, have an intense experience. And so now you know that you've had an orgasm. You know what to do is when it comes, you just relax into it. Because if you tense up, it won't happen. You want it to happen, so you relax into it. So relax into this. This is the unconditional love of the mother. And it's coming through the sun. She is the light of all suns. Our sun is one of her aspects of her. Why did I say that? I don't remember. Let's see what else. Another question. Lightbringer says, question, will 90-day challenge protect us from evil spirits? Yes. I don't even know why you're asking that question. I mean, I do, I understand, but let me just clear something up for you. Evil spirits are nothing to worry about unless you invite them in. That means every single person who's been possessed, every single person who's been attacked, every single person who's been oppressed by an evil spirit, assuming that it really was an evil spirit, 95% of the time it's not. It's people's own fear, and they manifest it, they create it themselves, they imagine it. But I'm an exorcist. I've looked demons in the face. I know that they exist. But I also know that the only way they can get access to you is if you let them in. And you ask, why would I do that? I'll explain to you why. I learned very quickly as an exorcist. I used to go and do exorcisms, and I found out very quickly, I won't get into any details. I have videos on the channel. If you learn how to search my channel, you can search demon possession on my channel, and you'll find the videos where I explain everything that happened. But I found out very quickly that somebody has to be very traumatized. They've been abused physically, sexually, mentally, emotionally, any or all of the above. And the pain of that, the trauma of that goes so deep into their unconscious, it feels like it's killing them. And so what they need is that they need some kind of drama where they can play out the trauma within themselves and at the same time divert themselves. So people will send out unconscious, energetic invitations. Please come and abuse me, because if you don't, I'll have to feel the feelings, and I don't want to feel them. But all the drama and the chaos. Why do you think people end up in abusive relationships over and over again? Because even though they don't like being abused, the drama of the abuse diverts them from the intense pain and the sadness they would have to feel if they were just left alone with their feelings. This is all what insanity is. If somebody has an emotional or a mental illness, there's a trauma that they're trying to divert themselves away from, and they create more trauma, ironically. So, Lightbringer, you've got this name Lightbringer, and here you are worried about evil spirits. There's no such thing as false beings of light. It doesn't exist. You can't be a dark being and pretend to be light. It doesn't work like that. You can't be evil and pretend to be good. It's impossible. If you truly are focused on the light, you don't have anything to worry about. I know that it's okay if you are, but I'm just here to tell you. I shared about this before. When I tell people, that I do this interdimensional meditation on a daily basis, at least I try. Some days I can't because I'm too tired or something, and I just can't do it. But, but every single day I do it, and I tell people about it, and they say, "What do you do to protect yourself?" And I go, "I don't do anything to protect myself. Why would I need to do that?" And it's because people think that evil is associated with power, and it's the opposite. Evil is actually a complete lack of power. People think that narcissists are full of themselves. They're not. Narcissists have no identity at all. They pretend to have an identity because it prevents them from wanting to die. So they walk around, saying how they're the best at this and the best at that, but internally they know that they're not. So Lightbringer, the 90-day challenge will protect you from evil spirits, but any work that you do that takes you towards the light will negate evil spirits. What we really need to look at is the evil within ourselves. It's the only thing you need to acknowledge. You don't even have to worry about anything outside of you. It's inside of you. And if somebody is possessed, there's an evil spirit possessing them, oppressing them. It is a vibrational match for the self-hatred that person has. So if there's any evil spirits in your life, it means that you have self-hatred. If you demolish the self-hatred, the evil spirits will run. They will run from you faster than you can possibly imagine. What else? Question, Paul Kupari. Have you surfed off the island of Sardinia? Paul, how many times do I have to ask you to stay on topic? Do you want to know what kind of underarm deodorant I use? Only 85 question. I'm actually possessed by small grays. No, you're not. You're not possessed by anything. Did you hear what I just said? It's impossible to be possessed. The only way that something can possess you is if you invite them in. Greys, by the way, there are extraterrestrial beings in higher dimensions who look like what you're calling a gray. But they don't possess anybody. The grays that have been portrayed in the mass media, and we'll probably see more of this coming from sources you wouldn't normally expect, but those are actually human creations. So any being that, and if you say you're possessed, I already know you're not talking about the beings that abduct. So the beings that abduct, that are presented to abductees as gray extraterrestrials, are actually human beings. So they're either human beings in a costume, or they are a holographic projection, or they are an electromagnetic projection put into somebody's mind. That's how much power these humans have. So I know that you don't, nothing personal, I know that you don't know what extraterrestrials are. Because if you say that, it means that you don't know. If I give you the benefit of the doubt, and I allow you to, assuming that if you think you've been abducted, and I give you the benefit of the doubt that you're not imagining that because of some mental illness that you have. If I give you the benefit of the doubt that you have been abducted by grays, it has been done by humans. But it's always done in the third dimension. It's this idea of possession. You think that they're in you. So I already know that you don't know what you're talking about, and you've been fooled into believing something that isn't accurate. I'm not saying that this isn't your experience. Let me read the rest of what you say. I'm actually possessed by small grays. They want my semen. So this is how I believe you have a serious mental issue. And the sad part, when you tell somebody who's got a mental illness, you have a mental illness, you need to go get help. The first thing that they're going to do is say that they're not crazy, that they don't have a mental illness. So I'm here to tell you you've got a serious mental illness. I don't know what you've been traumatized deeply to create this fantasy, because none of what you said is even possible. And they're not interested in these beings are not interested in your semen. They have no interest. They have no need, no interest in that. They're not into this hybrid program that people talk about. Human beings are. Human beings are. Human beings have taken DNA from crashed extraterrestrial ships that were crashed because humans crashed them. And they have taken the DNA from those recovered bodies, and they have been trying to create hybrids with human beings. That is a real thing. So if there is a physical being that is literally harvesting your semen, it is a human. It's not a gray. And you say, make me go Burko every couple of days, what should I do? You should talk to a psychologist immediately, because you have serious psychological issues. These are your projections, these are your delusions, these are your fantasies. And I know it sounds strange coming from me, but I can speak on behalf of every single extraterrestrial that is visiting Earth, that ETs do not abduct, they do not possess, they have no interest in your semen, and they have no interest in taking anything from you physically. So you're conflating, only 85, you're conflating your own internal fears and delusions, which is you running from your internal trauma. You're conflating that with popular sci-fi movies and the narrative that the deep state wants you to believe, which is that grays are out, doing this. So I'm sorry to say I don't agree with any of it. It's not personal. I'm not attacking you. I'm just telling you the truth. You've got I don't know anything about you. I already know you've been abused as a kid, whether that was psychologically, mentally, physically, what else. I already know that you went through some trauma as a child, and it is so intense that it's created this delusion. So I'm very sad to hear that. What should you do? You should talk to a psychologist immediately. Don't fear. Question, how to demolish self-hatred? First thing is, do me a favor, put the effort into writing a whole sentence. Have the respect for me. If you were sitting across from me, would you, talk to, you would ask me an entire question with all of the appropriate words. Don't be lazy. Don't be disrespectful to yourself and to me. How to demolish self-hatred. First off, I've never said that you need to get rid of any feelings. So demolishing self-hatred is not something I've ever said. I've never told anybody they need to demolish any feeling. what you need to do is read my book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. You can go to michaelwilliamdenny.com. You can get the book. You should read that book. You should master it. Again, every single person on here who comes onto my channel, there's some people on here that are new. This is not directed at you. Those of you who come onto every single time I come, you show up. And how many of you have never done the practices, never read my books, you're not subscribed, you're not doing any of the free stuff, you just want to come on here and talk? I can tell by your question if you've done the work. So don't fear, I can tell you haven't done any of the work. I can tell you haven't even been able to integrate the one thing that I keep saying over and over again, which is what I just got through saying earlier. You take constructive action towards your soul and towards the benefit of all conscious beings, regardless of how you are feeling. So your question, how to demolish self-hatred, the assumption of that question is that your self-hatred has the ability to control your actions. And it's not about that. Feelings can't control what you do. The only thing that will change your self-hatred is if you take loving actions towards yourself and towards others. If you don't know what that is, then you need a teacher. That is why there are spiritual teachers in the world. That's why there are mentors, life coaches, psychologists. Everybody who asks me these kinds of questions, in fact, I already know that the guy who just asked me about, I'm possessed by greys who want my semen. I already know he doesn't have a teacher, or she doesn't have a teacher, isn't going to a psychologist, doesn't have a mentor. They're doing it by themselves. And the worst place you can be is to be trapped inside your own mind. You can't fix your mind with your mind. You have to have another person. So we've got to get out of our isolation. What else? Let's see, where were we last? Lightbringer. Honest feeling. I asked the question about the protection about evil spirits because I feel shame and lazy when I don't finish my work. I don't understand. What do evil spirits have to do with you being lazy? You don't find that interesting? What is the connection there? I feel shame and lazy when I don't finish my work. I go to sleep and sometimes I encounter transforming entities. So I don't know what you mean by transforming entities. I don't know if that's an entity. I don't know if that's your own. Bear in mind, let me give you guys a story about this. Again, it's frustrating for me because I can tell people who haven't done the work. I can tell people who don't have teachers. I can tell. And that's my feeling about you, Lightbringer. You've got this great name, but I'm willing to bet you don't have a teacher. You're not doing the work, right? You don't have a mentor. You don't have somebody that you can bounce back information off of. You get all of your information from YouTube or books or both, right? Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong. You say, I go to sleep and sometimes I encounter transforming entities. So let me explain something. There was a family that was being harassed by a poltergeist. And it was the spirit would manifest as a little girl, like a 7-year-old girl. And she would go around and she would start fires in the house and she would physically attack the husband. He'd be asleep in bed and she would physically attack him. And she was starting fires. And she'd run around the house giggling. And no matter what they did, bring in a priest or they'd bring in an exorcist or whatever, they couldn't get rid of it. So they moved because they thought, oh, it's a ghost. We live in a house that the house is haunted by the ghost, right? Logical. No matter where they went, this little girl ghost poltergeist came with them. And I don't know how they figured it out, but somebody finally figured out what was really going on, which was that the mother, the wife of the husband, had been severely abused when she was a little girl. And she had, because of the trauma of that, she pushed it so deep into her unconscious, she had no memory of it. Now, just because it's in your unconscious doesn't mean that it's not there and that you don't feel it. And so she had a fear and a resentment towards her father. So what is, of course, she projects that onto her husband on a deeply unconscious level. She doesn't do it when she's awake, but when she's asleep, she falls asleep, and out of her unconscious comes this, her 7-year-old self. She projects it around, and she goes and starts fires and giggles and physically attacks her husband, because her husband was the same age her dad was when she was being abused. Bottom line is, there was no ghost. It came from within her unresolved pain. So when you say this confusing stuff, this isn't an attack on you. I'm just, I only have a short amount of time, so I got to show you the truth. Hopefully you'll hear what I say and you'll go get help. That's my hope. My hope is you'll realize, wow, I can't deal with this. I need to go get some help. You'll go get a spiritual teacher. You'll get a counselor. You'll find a psychologist. You'll go to a 12-step group. You'll do something. Because this isn't going to go away just because you're talking to me on YouTube. It's not going to happen. Got to get out of your narcissism and go get some help. So you fall asleep and you encounter transforming entities. It means nothing. I have no idea what that means. But if it's a transforming entity is a pleasant experience. It's not your fear of needing to protect yourself from negative entities. So it's coming from you. You are creating these negative transforming entities that you're experiencing when you're asleep and you're unconscious, you're dreaming. And the part of you, the self-hatred within you, the self-judgment that came from, whatever it came from, is coming out in your dreams. This is what happens, when people have night terrors. This is what happens when people, feel that they're being held down by evil spirits. It's got nothing to do with that. When you dream, your body goes into a paralysis state. Everybody's body does this. If you learn how to do have an out-of-body experience, you have to put yourself into a paralysis state. And you have to overcome your fear to be able to pull that off. So if you're going to sleep and you have transforming entities, which you want me to believe are negative entities, evil spirits, it's coming from you. It's coming from inside of you. Those are the feelings that you have about yourself that you can't consciously tolerate. So you push it deep down inside. That's why you need help. Doing the 90-day challenge is very helpful, but again, you really should have somebody that you work with, that you talk to. You say, that look like my friends and family, but oh no, aren't. Again, it's good to write out a whole sentence that is readable. So you say, in your dreams, these transforming entities look like you. So you can't see the obvious unconscious fear. You are afraid of your friends and your family. Somebody in your family you perceive has given you negative energy towards you. Almost everybody's family is dysfunctional to some degree, and we learn all of our negative self-talk from our parents and from our friends and our siblings, and so it's pretty obvious. I'm going to guess from this that you're a young person, right? You're a teenager or you're a young adult. Maybe you still live with your parents. And when you sleep, you have nightmares about your parents and your friends doing things, harmful things to you. Those aren't spirits. Those aren't entities. They're you. They're your unresolved feelings. Go get some help. Can you guys hear that? The kookaburras are agreeing with me. Lightbringer, I'm trying to grow my feeling of self-love. It doesn't work like that. You can't fix your broken feelings with your own feelings. You can't do it alone. You think by telling me that I'm going to give you a gold star. Good for you for trying. Keep it up. You can do it, champ. It's not how it works. You need help. You can't do it alone. So stop. Just stop wasting your time. Go get some help. There's plenty of free help out there. 12-step groups. Go find one. Codependence Anonymous. If you've got anybody in your family who drinks or do drugs, you can go to Al-Anon. You can go Adult Children of Alcoholics. Go find a 12-step group where you can get some help. Stop screwing around and trying to fix yourself. It's not going to work. Agent of the Universe, honest feeling. I feel like I want to control everything out of my fear and insecurities, but I understand that won't help. Good for you. Don't fear. Question. Can I be seeing these beings physically every day, or am I crazy? You didn't listen to me, did you? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Are you telling me that you're seeing them physically? You haven't said that. You're asking a question if you can see them physically. First off, if you're seeing grays physically walking around in the third dimension, that's your first clue that those are not extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials don't do that. They don't show up like that. They just don't. Perhaps they can. I'm sure that they have in extreme circumstances, but they don't. They're much happier being in a higher dimension. They don't need to be in our dimension. Everything you hear about grays abducting, it's all in the third dimension, all of it. Even if they're floating through the roof and carrying you out, even though I know that's not what's really happening. What's really happening is that there's a helicopter, one of those Black Ops helicopters, shining spotlights onto people's houses, which is designed to disorient you so that you can't see what's going on. There is a machine that has electromagnetic energy which they pump into your brain so that you see things that aren't there. And but even if you think you're being carried out by a gray, if you're being carried out, it's some guy in fatigues. It's some military guy in fatigues carrying you. How do I know this? Because there have been people who have been abducted, who have history of being abducted, and the technology failed, and they woke up in the middle of an abduction and found out they saw exactly what I just described. So assuming that you're not delusional, like you have a serious delusion, that you are, seeing things because of your unresolved, serious emotional issues. Assuming that's not the case, and you really are seeing those beings physically, they're human beings. But I doubt that's what's going on. I could be wrong. Listen, abductions happen all the time. They've been going on for a long time. And, they pick people. They pick people who have emotional challenges. They pick people that they can manipulate into this kind of delusional state so that they can keep doing it. My first instinct is that it's not people. My instinct is that you have some very serious unresolved issues that are manifesting in these delusions. That's my feeling. Because nothing you've described describes anything like what ETs actually do. Sophia Palumbo, question. And again, I hope that doesn't hurt your feelings. I'm just being honest with you. Anyway, go get some help. Go find a counselor. Sophia Palumbo, question. In regards to light beings, we have been told that the evil ones are masters at deceptions. So, Sophia, here's what I know about you. You're not subscribed here. All right. Sophia, are you doing any of the practices that I teach? Sophia, do you listen to me? How many times have you heard me tell you that light beings it is impossible for them to do anything evil. It's impossible for them to even have any evil feelings. How many times have you heard that? And yet you still need to talk to me about this. Why can't you just accept that? It's okay that you can't, but why? Why are you so attached to being afraid? You're not doing the work, or if you're doing the work, you don't have a teacher. This is what I know about you already. Tell me if I'm wrong. I know I haven't worked with you. So you're on your own, trying to do this stuff on your own. You have some unresolved things aren't getting resolved. Let's see. In regards to light beings, we have been told that the evil ones are masters at deceptions. All right, so do you believe everything everybody tells you? No. You believe the things that people tell you that already align with your internal dialogue. You have fear. You aren't ready to let go of your fear. So when I come along, no matter how many times I keep telling you that I can tell you from personal experience that I can speak on behalf of every single extraterrestrial being that is coming to Earth, that none of them are deceptive in any way, even though I say that 1 billion times, you're not vibrating on that level. One person says something on YouTube somewhere and you grab onto that and you can't let go of it. Why? Because of your fear. And your fear is there because of your unresolved issues. We all have them. If you guys think this has been an easy process for me, I mean, you know, go back and watch my videos from a year ago. If you think this has been easy for me, it's not. I'm having to face everything that I'm telling you guys about. I'm having to face as well. So it's not like I'm standing there pointing at you thinking I'm better than you. It takes one to know one. The only difference is that you're not following my suggestions. If you want what I have, you have to do what I do. You can't listen to me and think that on the one hand, you're learning from me. I have something that you need to learn from. And simultaneously, you don't have to do the same things that I've done. You're superior to me in that you don't need to do the work. You don't have to work with a teacher. You don't have to work with a counselor. You don't have to do all this work on yourself. Obviously, I did because I've made it clear that I do, but you don't need to do that. And yet on top of that, you want to ask me questions and you want me to teach you how to do stuff, but you're not willing to follow my suggestions. And then you're going to end up where you are. You're not going to hear when I tell you something. Or if you do hear it, you're going to grab onto something somebody else says, and then you're going to come back to me, which, by the way, is, you know, very disrespectful to me when you come back and you say, somebody else said something different. What do you want me to do with that? So what? You know, I got an email from a Nigerian king who says that, you know, if I give him $1,000, he'll give me $1 million. Well, just because he said it, does that mean that it's true or that I should listen to it? Why are you listening to people that are saying things directly opposite from somebody that you're here asking questions from? If you really think I have something to teach you, why are you listening to these people? Isn't this just basic? Look, this is how deep the fear is. All I'm doing is I'm bumping up against human fear. And we all have it. So let's get over it. Let's just accept that we have fear. Take the actions that will help us to evolve out of it. That's what I'm trying to help you with. Let me finish with your question. In regards to light beings, we've been told that the evil ones are masters at deceptions. Are you saying it's not possible to be lured in and then trapped? I can't believe you're asking me this. How many times have I said that? How many times have I said that? I never said that it's impossible for you not to be lured and trapped. But if you are lured and trapped, it's because on an unconscious level, that's what you wanted. Because you wanted that. You felt that would protect you from the fear of, you know, facing one of these guys and having your three-dimensional identity destroyed. It means you're attached to your 3D identity. And I get it. But, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't know how many times I can tell you, Sophia, the same thing. And, you probably ask me the same question next week. I'll try to be patient and be helpful, but it gets challenging when people don't pay attention and they don't listen. It makes it challenging for me. Charles Irwin, welcome to the channel. You see above you, people are writing the word question in all caps. You're new to the channel, so you don't know. But I prefer to see the word question because otherwise I just scroll through it. So if you want me to see your question, do what they're doing. Just look above your question and you'll see. You say, how can I get the God's attention? I wish to serve them. I already told you. Just go and ask them. Just go and ask them. Let's see. That's not a question. That's not a question. Josh B. Josh B, you did something that annoyed me. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, but you have a question. Let's see. Okay. I can tell by the first sentence that you're going to come off exactly the way that you say you don't want to come off. Not wanting to come off fear-based, but, so we know that everything after the word but is going to be completely what he said he doesn't want to look like. But given your outlook on all the gray abductions and cultural obsession is actually human deception, do you know or feel this also applies to reptilians? Josh B, yeah, how many times have I said that? Again, either you're new to the channel or you don't listen. But yeah, I spent years talking about, and I just did now in this video I said that. I'll repeat it. Every single person who wants to believe in reptilians, every single person who wants to believe in false beings of light, every single one of you who has that belief or wants to believe that, you're afraid of dying to your third dimensional self. And so you project onto what you perceive to be more powerful than you, beings of higher dimensions, that they do what you experience within yourself. So I've said that 100 times. I said it today. Either you weren't on in time or you weren't paying attention. And the two things that are the most important in this world are to pay attention and to put effort. And I can tell when people aren't doing that. As I said, there was something else you did, Josh, that bothered me. I'm remembering what it is now, but I'm not going to beat you up over it. It would benefit you to pay attention and put effort. Listen to what I say. It's interesting. I'll say something very clear and then people will ask, if I say A plus B equals C, you'll go, okay, so are you saying that A plus B equals C? No, he's saying A plus B equals C. Are you saying C is the product of both A and B? It's called, it's that inability to just hear that and accept it. This is the tough part, guys. You guys are going to have to get out of your head. This is why pot smokers, this pot smokers ask the most questions. I don't know how many people who've asked the questions are pot smokers. People who smoke pot are trying to run away from their feelings and they get lost in their head and they think because they can over-intellectualize things that somehow gives them some kind of power. They conflate it with spirituality. But even if you don't smoke pot, you're seriously overthinking things because you're running away from your feelings. And it's okay. Your feelings are frightening. But there's only one way out of this. You got to face your fears. And as I say that, I'm getting flooded with energy. There's only one way out of this, guys. And I'm giving you the tools. So Josh B, you're not subscribed here, are you? You're not doing the 90-day challenge, are you? Am I wrong? You don't have a daily mantra practice, do you? You didn't go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and get an astrology reading from me or one of my apprentices who can tell you what mantra you should be chanting so you can overcome all of this nonsense. You just come onto the channel, right? Ask me questions. You're not doing the work. Let's just be clear, guys. if you want to subscribe to this, it's $55 a month. How much do you spend on video games? How much do you spend on whatever it is you do? I know you spend at least that much money. I know you spend at least that much money on other stuff. Apps on your phone, whatever the hell it is. And you guys have such resistance. I get it. You have resistance to facing this and dying to yourself, but it's the only way out. I'm not saying I'm the only way, but you got to do something. And everything I offer to you guys is the work, the tools to make that happen. And for many of you, it won't happen unless you have a teacher, you have a mentor, you have a counselor, you have somebody that you can bounce it off. You're not going to be able to pull it off on your own. Let's see what else. This guy, we're going to say goodbye to this individual because this is just destructive spam. I won't even give him or her the benefit of mentioning them, but we will ban them from ever commenting again. Okay. Okay, that's not a question. That's not a question. Don't fear honest feeling. I know I'm not. I don't know what you mean. Again, finish an entire sentence, an entire thought. I don't know what that means. I know you're not what? I know I'm not. They are changing lyrics to songs and reading my thoughts. Okay, so here's how you can tell the difference between somebody who has a delusion and somebody who doesn't. When I have these experiences with higher dimensional beings, I almost always question my sanity. And I have a therapist, actually, who happens to also be a yogi and a meditator. And I take my experiences to him and I say, am I losing my mind? And he says, no. And he says, no, because you're not, what's the word I'm looking, you're not psychotic. So psychotic is when somebody has a break with actual, reality. And so, he can tell by the way that I talk that I'm not psychotic in my life. I'm just having a very intense spiritual experience. But I worry about it because it's so different from what I understand. So when somebody has to double down when I say you're delusional and you have to say, no, I know that I'm not, blah, 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 and then they'll go on and talk about their delusion. That's almost a sure sign that you are delusional, because what is a delusion? It is a self-protection mechanism. And again, people, being possessed, even if somebody is actually possessed, and again, most of the time they're not, but even if somebody is actually physically possessed, it's still a psychotic break. They're so deeply wounded and they're running away from their pain to such a degree that they successfully pulled a demon from the second dimension into the third dimension so that they would be distracted by all of the craziness from their own pain. Yeah, being possessed by a demon is less painful than just sitting with the sadness and the pain of not being loved. Let me repeat myself. Going through all of the pain and drama and trauma that comes from actually being physically possessed by a demon is not as painful as feeling the pain of not being loved. So don't fear. Here's what I know about you. You're not doing any of the practices. Probably haven't read any of my books. You don't have a therapist. You don't have a teacher. You do have this delusion. And when I tell you it's a delusion, you don't go, oh my God, really? Whew. That would be, right? If something really awful is happening to you and somebody says it's not real, the logical, sane response would be, oh, thank God. Not, So the fact that you feel the need to keep defending it is only showing that it really is a delusion. And again, the bottom line of the delusion, it's not that you're a bad person for having a delusion. It's sad and painful that the feelings that you have on a deeply unconscious level of not being loved are so painful for you that you have to live out this delusion. Because, you know, every single person who wants to brag about having grays, you know, harvest their semen, there's no shortage of them. Every single one of them that I've talked to, especially when they brag about it, when they talk about it, every single one of them is somebody that I've experienced as being deeply, deeply wounded. And they're not able to take a look at the core wound. So this is what I'm seeing with you. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, don't fear. That's not an honest feeling. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see what else. All right. That's not an honest. So don't fear. I'm this close to blocking you because now you're just starting to get weird. I can tell you're being defensive. You want to argue with me, and I'm not interested. My AA sponsor said same thing to me all the time about, but only been in 3 of your videos. Okay. So bottom line, Josh B, is keep talking to your AA sponsor. Work the steps. Keep working the 4th and the 10th step. No, you can't contact me. All right, what else? That's not a question. That's not a feeling. Let's see, question. Great. So don't fear. Go find a psychologist and work with a sponsor. Work the 12 steps with a sponsor and go get a psychologist. What else? Anything else? All right, we got lost in the weeds here, so I guess everybody's tuned out. I don't blame you. All right, I guess that's it for me, guys. Thanks for showing up. And remember, this channel is about giving you the tools to do the work. Don't fear. Stop apologizing. You don't need to be sorry. I've given you 2 things to do, and I'm telling you honestly with love. It's up to you to do them. Work all 12 steps with your sponsor, especially step 4 and step 10, and get a psychologist. Anything else you have to say is meaningless. Go do those 2 things. It's the only thing that matters right now. Okay, guys, that's it. ThunderWizard.com. Go check it out. That will give you the ability to handle the intense energies that will come as a result of doing interdimensional meditation with these beings. And courses.thunderwizard.com if you want to get an astrology reading where you can find out what deity to worship and what mantra to do, which will help you. That will also help you with the shift that's coming. You can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Go and check out all my books. Interdimensional Revolution, you can find that on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. You can also just go to michaelwilliamdenny.com. You see all my books there. Interdimensional Meditation, I have free ones on the channel as well as some advanced ones here at the 90-Day Challenge. That's it. I wish you guys all the best. Thank you so much for showing up. If I've done or said anything that's hurt anybody's feelings or offended you, bear in mind, again, I'm just telling you the truth. And, I'm much more interested than telling you the truth than getting you to like me. So I hope you can hear that. And again, I'm not the only game in town. You don't like what I say, there's plenty of other channels you can watch. And whatever you do, I wish you all the best. And I will see you out there in the ethers. Take care.